YouTube and the Deep South. This is the Auburn Fanatics podcast with Vernon Speak Sports Auburn. A lot going on in the Auburn landscape. My goodness. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to the channel. As you all know, down in the Deep South, college football is king. And on the plains of Auburn, the battle cry is War Eagle. All right, so as we head into week 2 of the fall camp, a highly anticipated football game, Auburn faces Baylor this time. Of course, it's Baylor, and usually not a team that kind of hits you on the radar like that, but I think that it needs to hit you this time because this is a team that feels pretty good about their aspirations as it relates to the Big 12 conference. 8-5 last year. Got a great quarterback coming back in Sawyer Robertson. Man, I don't know if you are, and I keep saying this because I'm just deeply intrigued by this. They got a sailgate situation where fans actually ride a boat to the stadium. I mean, it's a hell of an atmosphere. I hope all of Auburn fans that get to actually participate and be on the scene per se for the Auburn Baylor game. I hope you just take advantage of all the fanfare that goes around the stadium because as I've looked at this, I think just kind of rolling the dice a little bit. This might be the most underrated college football atmosphere in the country. Beautiful landscape, beautiful outlier as the river kind of is adjacent to the stadium and it kind of complements the trajectory of it. I think that's pretty cool. And you know what? The Baylor fans are. This is outside of that whole thing. The Baylor fans feel like this is like a little stepping stone against Auburn for them to get to where they have wanted to be. They've had some success. They've had a recent, fairly recent Heisman Trophy winner in Robert Griffin III, who has been a controversial figure, but did some great things, man, while at Baylor. And we say it's recent. A lot of people are like, well, that was like 10, 15, that was like 10 years ago. Well, actually, it's like maybe 13 years ago, but at the same time, there are not a lot of teams that have consistent Heisman Trophy winners. So, in comparison to the landscape of Heisman Trophy football, I think that's pretty recent, right? Especially for Baylor, not discounting the team that they are, but they're just not a team that's just pumping out Heisman Trophy winners every year. I'll tell you what, as it turns out, and maybe this is media based. Maybe this is something that has been catalyzed by the media, something that has been catalyzed by just some wavelengths. But as it turns out, Auburn goes into Waco, Texas on what is I hope is going to be a nice Friday night. It's going to be humid. But man, I hope it doesn't rain though. Friday night, they're going to go in as underdogs. All throughout, as far as I can remember back, FanDuel said, you know what? Auburn is a 1.5 favorite. And in recent weeks, Auburn is now 1.5 underdogs. Let that sink in for a minute. That's a 3-point swing if you really look at it. And for you really Bettified folks, betting folks. It's a 56 over under. Now, we're going to go up to the betting scale, and I want to ask each of you, how you going to bet? 1.5. I think you know a little bit more about Baylor than you know about Auburn. But a 1.5 point favorite or underdog, how you going to pick? You going to pick the over? You going to pick the under? Point spread, 56 points, point 0.5. You going to pick the over or under? Auburn is plus 1.5 in this, right? So, as confusing as this may be to a lot of, betting folks, I'm telling you what you should do. One, you got to pick the over point, the plus 1.5. You got to. I think you would almost be irresponsible to think that either team is going to win or lose by less than 1.5. And the reason why I say this is because both teams have the capability to score a lot of points. And I think with the way the point differential is going to turn out, I mean, unless you're looking at the Colorado versus Baylor game from last year, or maybe a couple of games, there are no games in the last couple of years where Auburn or Baylor was that close in either the over or the under. So what I'm going to do is, if I'm a bettor, I'm going to pick the over. You know what I'm saying? You're going to win. Whoever wins is going to win by over 1.5. And this is where it becomes tricky. See, they always do this in these Auburn games. They give you this, what you think is a big amount. Two teams combined to score 56.5 points. That says that both teams are going to score about 27 points apiece. You know what I mean? 27.5 points apiece. Or maybe a little bit more. But see, the problem is neither team really has done that. But neither team has had the weapons that they probably have now, which I think is going to be even a more surmountable factor in how you bet on this game. But anyway, just know, as of now, unless something changes dramatically, that Baylor is favored to beat Auburn by 1.5 points, almost 2 points. And they project the teams to, if you're going to bet, they're either going to score a little bit over 56.5 points or under. Now, here's a thing. I think some of the reasons that this may have changed is because media perspectives have changed too. You know, Auburn, they're starting to look at the quarterback. Well, maybe he's not as good as we thought he was. You know, you losing, Malcolm Simmons possibly, but now Malcolm Simmons is back. You know what I mean? How are the transfers going to, make an impact? So you got to look at all those things. So moving forward, it's Monday, the Monday nightcap, the Monday Madness with Vernon Speak Sports and the Auburn Fanatics podcast. Man, I thank you all. I really think we've been doing this for a little bit. And I want to call out all the Baylor fans. They've been talking a lot of great things on the channel. Like the video, as I said before. Comment, subscribe, comment, because I really like the feedback. You know what I mean? Because last night, if it weren't for a subscriber commenting, I wouldn't have known that my audio was jacked up in the last video. Because a lot of times I don't really test, I just let it roll. But then he was like, man, I can't hardly hear it. He was right. Couldn't hear nothing. So, but anyway, I appreciate that. I appreciate all the engagement, War Eagle. So look, now here's some problems for the Tigers and some problems for Jackson Arnold. There's some situations that talk about the fact that what, Jackson Arnold may not succumb in his first game. He'll probably win the first one. He's got enough talent. He's got enough talent around him. I mean, he's got arguably a handful of receivers that would be starters on most Power Four football teams. And I think he's got a nice set of running backs, including the emergence of somebody that we'll talk about later on in the video. But Jackson Arnold, media's not too big on this outcome for Jackson Arnold. A bad prediction for him. Jackson Arnold, let's talk about him real quick. Played at Oklahoma for a couple of years, massed almost 2,000 yards, had his biggest game against Alabama, mostly running, had a lot of help from the defense. A lot of folks coined him as the hero of that game. Excellent work, right? But during the offseason, he transfers to Auburn, former 5-star recruit, Gatorade Player of the Year. He's got to return to the Palace. They call it the Palace in Soonerville, Oklahoma Sooners. He's got to go back there. And a lot of folks just straight up don't feel good about that game for Auburn. Maybe, maybe not. You know, that's not a game that Auburn folks or that the media pundits are big on. And one, you got to look at a lot of factors. Why? Why wouldn't you be? Well, I know why. Jackson Arnold is going back to a place that he was not comfortable at. I'm a human being, fellas, gals, girls, boys, whoever's on this channel listening right now. When you go back to a place where you weren't really comfortable, I don't know. Sometimes that subconscious comes back to you. This is a place that I didn't have a lot of success when I was on this particular football team. Now, I did beat Alabama on this field, but for the most part, all of my discomforts were in this environment. So now you asking me to return, and you're asking me to return with with my new team. That, yes, I think I'm in a better situation. I probably got a better offensive line. I'm not going to say I have better coaches because that may or may not be true. But I'm in a better situation. But now I got to go back to a place that I just wasn't successful at in the 2 years of my collegiate career, other than a few games here and there. So why would anybody expect me to be successful? What is my outcome going to be? What is my demeanor going to be? What is my attitude going to be? What is my emotions going to be like? What is my mentality going to look like as I return back to the place that whenever anybody talks about me, yes, maybe I'm that guy that doesn't really feed into the media, but you know what I mean? What does this look like returning to the place where everybody felt like I needed to get away from to be successful because maybe the wide receiver situation wasn't there? Changed coordinators too much. All of those other things, but now I got to go back. Now, most quarterbacks, when they transfer, usually it's, another conference. You think about Cam Newton. Cam Newton was at Florida, then goes to Blinn College, and then comes back to Auburn. Just so happens, although it's an inner kind of a long way interconference transfer, it just so happened that that was a year that, Cam Newton didn't have to go back to Florida as an Auburn Tiger. I I mean, hell, he might have been successful, but who knows? Justin Fields, when he transferred out of Georgia, it wasn't a situation where he had to, go to Georgia and go to Alabama. He went to Georgia and went to Ohio State. That's a different conference situation. You know what I'm saying? Jalen Hurts. Now, if Jalen Hurts would have transferred recently, Jalen Hurts transferred from Alabama to Oklahoma. And as it turns out, at that time, Oklahoma was in a different conference. And you don't have to play Alabama that next year. You don't have to deal with that anxiety. But Jackson Arnold does. How the outcome of the Baylor game, how confident he is with his team in that environment. I don't think the Baylor environment will be as hostile as what he will face in Oklahoma, because I mean it's going to be pretty rowdy there. It's going to be rowdy at both, but Oklahoma is a different kind of rowdy. It's SEC rowdy now, and they really feel great about where they are as a program. But folks say it ain't looking too good for Jackson Arnold as an Auburn Tiger going back to where his roots are as a college football player this year. We'll see. Hopefully, though, at worst, Auburn goes into that game 3-0 with the win against Baylor. I think they kind of have to. You know what I mean? They kind of have to. So we'll see where things go from there. All right, that's my time here. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn and the Auburn Fanatics podcast. As always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.